never been one to believe in the supernatural. I was always the type of person who laughed off ghost stories, dismissed any mention of hauntings as superstition or overactive imaginations. That all changed when I moved into the new house. I should have known something was off from the beginning, but I didn't listen to my gut. I was just so excited to be in my own space. No roommates, no parents, just me and the world outside my door. It was a fresh start, a chance for something new. The house was old, but it had character. The kind of character that looks charming at first, but reveals its darker side if you look too closely. The wooden floors creaked with every step I took, and the wallpaper in the hallway was faded in odd patches, like it had been pulled away from the walls and never quite put back. But it was mine, and it felt like a victory. That first night, I spent hours unpacking, trying to get everything just right. The place felt empty, almost. Not in the way a new home does, but in a more profound sense. It was like there was something that had once lived here, something that still lingered. But I brushed it off. I was just tired. As the days passed, I began to notice things. Little things at first. A door that was slightly ajar when I was sure I'd closed it. The faint sound of footsteps from upstairs, though I was alone. The lights flickering at odd intervals. I tried to rationalize it. Old wiring, perhaps. Maybe the house just settled at night, creaking and groaning under its own weight. But then, one evening, it happened. I was sitting in the living room, scrolling through my phone, when I heard a soft thud from upstairs. I froze, straining my ears. A low scraping sound followed, like something was dragging across the floor. It was unmistakable. I wasn't imagining it. I stood up, heart hammering, and slowly made my way up the stairs. Each step seemed to echo louder than the last. As I reached the top, I stood there, staring down the long hallway in front of me. The door at the end of the hall was slightly cracked, just enough to reveal the shadow of something moving inside. I couldn't breathe. My feet felt glued to the floor. I should have turned around, run downstairs, and locked myself in the living room, but something compelled me to walk toward the door. I reached for the handle, and just as my fingers brushed it, the door slammed open on its own. I stumbled back, gasping, and my eyes darted to the room beyond. It was empty, completely empty. Not a single piece of furniture, not a trace of anything that would explain the sound. But I didn't feel relieved. I felt watched. I could sense it, an overwhelming pressure, like someone, or something, was right behind me. I turned quickly, but the hallway was just as empty. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every whisper of wind felt amplified, like the house was alive and watching me. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination running wild, that I'd be fine once I got some rest, but the longer I stayed in that house, the more it felt like I wasn't alone. The worst part was the dreams. At first, I thought they were just nightmares, the kind you shake off after you wake up. But they felt so real, too real. I would dream of walking down that same hallway, the one upstairs. Only the shadows would shift unnaturally, and the air would grow thick with a heavy, suffocating presence. In some dreams, I'd hear whispers, low, garbled voices that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. I could never make out the words, but I could feel them creeping into my mind, clawing at my thoughts. One night, I woke up in the middle of one of these dreams, sweating, my heart racing. I was lying in bed, trying to calm my breath, when I heard it. The soft click of a door opening. My eyes darted to the hallway. The faint outline of a figure stood at the end, just beyond the shadows. It wasn't a person, not really. It was more of a shape, a distortion of the air itself, its edges flickering like static on a broken television screen. And then, it moved. I froze. My body went cold. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. All I could do was watch as it glided toward me, its movements unnatural, like it was floating instead of walking. The closer it got, the more the air grew thick, oppressive, like the room was closing in on me. I could hear it now, soft, guttural breathing, a rhythm that didn't belong to anything human. I blinked, and suddenly, it was standing right next to my bed. I could feel its presence, like a weight on my chest. I could see the blackness that surrounded it, like an absence of light. Then, it spoke. Leave. The voice was a whisper, but it vibrated through my bones, icy cold and full of malice. I tried to scream, to move, but nothing happened. My throat was frozen, my body paralyzed. It stood there, watching me, for what felt like hours, though I know it was only a few minutes. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it was gone. The next day, I packed up what little I had left and left the house for good. I wasn't even sure where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there any longer. But even as I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was still watching me, waiting, as though it had marked me somehow. I kept seeing flashes of that distorted figure in my rearview mirror, in the corner of my vision. It's been months since I left, but I can still feel it, in my dreams, in the shadows of every new place I try to make home. I don't know what it was that haunted that house, but I'm sure of one thing. Whatever it was, it's still out there, and it knows me. It